Week 13. Wow, 13 weeks of communicating responsibly. Huh. I hope you folks have been following along. If not, you might want to do that. Today, we're going to jump into the workplace with our communication. Up until now, these last 12 weeks, we've talked a lot just about basic communication in your everyday lives, in your personal relationships, your families. But we're going to spend the next few weeks on workplace place communication, and some of it might not make sense if you haven't heard the weeks that came before this. A couple things about that. I am feeling really good just in general. And I wasn't when I started this. So I hope that part of my natural dopamine high and sense of purpose in these very challenging times is coming from putting out these weekly podcasts. And as I said at the beginning, that is a big part of why I'm doing this. So I'm going to continue to do it. Once I have devoted myself to something, I'm pretty good at suiting up and showing up. For you folks, I would love to get some feedback. I have had people who are close to me talk to me about different aspects of the podcast, things they like, things they don't like, things they think I could do differently, and I've listened to all of them. So please get in touch with me. You can get my email through the firststep.com. Or you can find, I'm easy enough to find. Shoot me an email, leave it on the YouTube channel, leave it as a reply to these videos. Would love to hear from you. And also, please share one or more of these videos with folks you think that might enjoy it. Um, it seems like at this point in time in history, this is a pretty amazing, right now can be scary, overwhelming, like want to get under the covers time, at least for me. But boy, this is a really interesting time in history. And when people look back, I know when I look back at my parents and when they grew up and it was in the 60s, and I was kind of like, well, what were you doing? Well, they weren't out there carrying signs and they weren't out there going to Woodstock. They had other things going on in their lives. But the same questions are going to come from future generations. What did you do? How were you responsible? And this whole podcast started because communication, the thing I believe we do the most of with other people day to day, we can be responsible for our own communication. This is something we can control. And that's what this is all about. So please pass it on. Get in touch with me. I'm going to be here regardless of if two people are following me or 2 million, because I think it's important and it's really helping me kind of focus and have some direction and get through this time and feel like I'm being responsible. Plus, I'm learning stuff, which brings me to today. I'm just going to bring over some of my notes because, wow, the workplace, I learned a whole bunch of things about the workplace. So, a few things just to kind of be thinking about what is responsible communication. I don't want to say I'm making it up as I go along, but kind of. I mean, how do we communicate in a responsible way? As we go into the workplace, it's very similar to things we've said just in everyday communication, personal communication with your family, with your loved ones. It's things like owning your tone, right? Owning your intent. Only you know your intention when you're communicating. Did you pick up the bread is just it's just a very neutral sentence, but you can have a lot of intent in that. Did you pick up the bread? Bet you didn't. Did you pick up the bread? Yeah, I really needed that bread. Or, you know, are you kind of communicating, I want to say even honestly, right? Because if we say one thing, but we need another, we mean another thing, then what we're saying that's not really being responsible. And you can put other words on it. It's sarcastic, it's cutting, it's not very effective. That's what we're trying to get at. So own your tone, own your intention, and own the impact. I'm sorry that you feel that way is not an I'm sorry. We did a podcast a couple weeks ago about a real apology and saying you're sorry. If you did that to make the person feel bad, and then you say, I'm sorry that you feel that way, that's not owning your impact, right? So this is really about getting real with yourself and then it kind of using it with other people, which you're going to have to do in the workplace. All right. So, all along, we have said another part of responsible communication is being aware of your emotions. How am I feeling when I get into this conversation, when I know this conversation is coming? And if it's me and my boss, I got a great boss right now. My boss is awesome. I'm still going to have some anxiety when I go in for my supervision meetings. That's me. That's just my emotions, right? Once you have gotten better at naming emotions, yours, you probably get better at noticing other people's emotions. I've been in the counseling field almost 3 decades. Sometimes I get it wrong on where other people are at, but I'm a lot better than I used to be at kind of picking up the emotions. And a cool thing about motivational interviewing that we've been talking about is I'll throw an emotion out there, kind of reflect it, and see if I got the right one or not. You can always check on if you're getting that right for other people. Another thing, and I would say this is specific to workplace, choose being clear to being right. Choose being clear to just being right. And that goes into your personal communications too. We talked about boundaries last week, I think it was. This is a little different than that because stuff's got to get done at work. So being clear and working as a team is really important, and it's so much more effective if you can communicate with clarity and not be like, I'm going to be kind of vague here because I know this person's going to screw it up and then I can be right. Well, that doesn't help anybody at work. Things we've said all along, we're going to take into the workplace too. Pause before you react. It is the difference between reacting and responding. Taking a pause, taking some time. You also want to seek to understand where the person is coming from before you judge them or put a judgment on what's going to happen. That would go along with assume, don't make assumptions, right? When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. We've been saying that since the 1900s, folks. So seek understanding, get curious, and watch your judgments. And here we go again. Three-letter word, watch that ego, right? Focus on the outcome at work. Begin with the end in mind. 7 habits. Mention that in several podcasts too. Let's focus on the outcome and just get my ego out of the way. That's all responsible communication. So, the next part of this week, I think you're going to enjoy. I enjoyed it. I had heard of 4 common workplace communication styles before, um, but I had kind of they'd gone off into the ether. I had forgotten about them. But then this week they came up again as I was getting ready to talk about workplace communication. So here is what I'm going to give you next. I'm going to give you 4 basic types of workplace communicators, and you got 2 jobs to do if you choose to do them. If it's interesting to you, would be the counselor thing. Let's take a look at this. If it's interesting for you to do so, yeah, come on, jump in the pool. Which one do you think you are? Or you might be a mix of a couple. And then stage 2, once you figure out who you are and the why, try to figure out the people you're working with, which style of communication they have. And again, I hate to just put things in boxes. You might be a mix, but as I look these over, one jumped out to me. with a little sprinkle of two. And what was weird is the way I communicate at work is different than the way I communicate personally with family members and loved ones. So I am the first type of communicator at work by and large, and that is the direct communicator. Just tell me what matters. How do you know if you are a direct communicator? You're straightforward, you're task focused, begin with the end in mind, right? I tell you, go crazy hearing it. And what's efficient? Straightforward, task focused, and efficient. Now, the strength of this type of communication is that it's clear and it's decisive. The thing you have to watch out for that can be challenging, and I'm so guilty of this, it can feel blunt or it can feel dismissive of other people. And that's why I had to step back a little bit because I am by and large a people pleaser. I've gotten much better at it with boundaries and saying no and those types of things. But in my private life, it's still there. I'm much more a mix of these two. At work, I'm a direct communicator, and I know I can feel blunt or dismissive to other people sometimes. So, people you work with, or maybe yourself, might say things like, "What's the bottom line? Just tell me, what we have to get done here." Or the people who say, "We don't need we don't need a meeting for this." I say that all the time. And another thing that drives me crazy in my current job, we just have 12 different emails or 20 or 30 about a thing. And our offices are only within 10 feet of each other, right? Couldn't we just say, "Hey, you want to go? Let's go talk to the boss. Me, you, let's go in there." No, we're going to email 400 times. Direct communication. It is something that goes along with that. So, people with this communication style, and again, this is by my research, this isn't Brian saying this, they value efficiency. And I would say that's true for me. They value results. That is very true for me. And they value speed, getting things done quickly. Yes, that is true for me too. Now, this part I have to own. Part of this, my personal stuff, is the ADHD. If I don't do it right now, I'm going to forget about it. So I want to get this together. I want to get the email right now. I don't like things that have the slow burn. We're going to be working on this for a year. I've been on those committees before, and I'm like, "Phew, we could have this wrapped up in 3, 4 weeks." That's difficult for me. So speed is one of the important things. Again, direct communicators can come across as rude because of this. I mentioned being dismissive or impatient, and guilty is charged, right? Impatient, definitely. I know I can come across as rude, and I really don't mean to be. So I got some work to do around that. What I'm really trying to do and what direct communicators are trying to do is move things forward quickly. So if you are working with a direct communicator and you're not a direct communicator, here are some things that you may want to get into your workplace communication. Don't over explain things. If they say they got it, they got it. Do not take their tone personally. Because you may be friends, you may get along and everything else, but at work, they're like, "Oh, it's being a jerk." Don't take it personally and try not to become defensive. Say, "Oh, this is someone who is, direct communicator." That's the first one. Okay. How can you be responsible in your communication when you're dealing with a direct communicator? Be concise, be structure, and lead with the outcome. So here's the recommendation. Here's what I have found out and why I think we should do it this way. That would be helpful. Which actually brings me to the second type of communicator. Interestingly enough, I've had this discussion with my wife about these four types of communication. She is primarily this type of communicator, the analytical communicator. She wants to see data. She wants to do research. She is detail oriented, right? With some data-driven things. She's always going to look up if we're ordering something online, what did people say about that? If we're taking a trip, she's going to look at what the ratings were that people gave to this. Not me. I'm like, what's the price? What are the dates? Click, 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 let's go. And remember, as we go through these four types of communication, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I have gotten burned being so direct and not looking at some of the data in the past. That is a strength that my wife and analytic communicators have. So they're going to get you your statistics. They're going to do the background work. They're going to be accurate. They're going to be thorough. The main challenge in working with other people, direct communicators and other people, is they might slow things down because they want to make sure that the decision is being based on some data and it's a good decision, right? It's an effective decision. That is the way analytical communicators roll. So, what might you hear them say? Well, what's the evidence, right? Why are we doing this? What's the evidence? How do we know the outcome is going to be that way? Can we look at the numbers? Have you gotten any numbers? Where does it say this is the right way to go? They value accuracy, they value logic, and they value risk reduction. And they might even say, at least in my experience, that even though they're taking some more time on the front end, it's going to take a whole lot more time if you do this and you don't reach the goal. If you order that thing quickly and you get it and it's junk, right? Why didn't we research a little bit more and get the thing we really wanted, we really needed, the thing that would fit, the thing that would work? So they want to reduce that risk. Analytical communicators. They can be misinterpreted, as I said before. They're overthinking it. Oh my gosh. Sometimes even negative. Oh, they're so negative. Can't we just do this, right? Or slow. So slow, they're dragging this out. What they're really trying to do is avoid mistakes and ensure the quality of the outcome. So, what can you do if you are working with an analytical communicator? Here's some tips. Do not rush them. Do not give them vague answers. If you do not have the answers, say, I do not know. That's a good question. Um, and they're willing to help, at least in my experience. So maybe partnering with them, right? Don't ignore details. Don't give them vague answers. Don't act like you know what you don't know because they're going to see right through it. Responsible communication with analytical communicators means being prepared when you go in there. Provide specifics or allow them, if they're offering, to get the specifics because they're really good at it. And like I said, I've learned a lot about that type of communication from my wife. I value it immensely from her and from people I work with. Because I have that squirrel ADHD brain, if I have somebody who's willing to go, they actually enjoy it and come back to me, they'll give me a timeline and they'll get it done in there. Let's work together. Let's partner. That's another aspect of motivational interviewing we've talked about again and again and again. Partnering with people, not bulldozering them. Okay, the third type, this is more me outside of work. This is the amiable communicator. Let's keep things positive, folks, right? So this type of worker is warm, they're collaborative, they partner with people all the time, they work well as a team, they seek harmony on the team, right? They keep the team spirit up. They really like having team cohesion. The challenge in working with the amiable communicator is that they avoid conflict, which I do in my personal life, and they may not speak up. You may not know they're just going along to get along. So you may not know that they're really not on board with this. So people who are amiable might say, I'm okay, whatever the group decides. Someone I work with all the time, we actually kid about it. When I send something, I email it because we all email, and this person will email back, looks good. It always looks good, right? Very amiable. Uh, Sometimes not particularly helpful when I'm looking for more of the analytical communicator to say, well, tell me about this or that or the third. They want people to feel good, and again, they kind of lend this spirit of working together and being comrades in the office. They value relationships, they value harmony, and they value team cohesion. They don't want to rock the boat in any way. They can be misinterpreted and seen as passive, indecisive, and sometimes even avoiding things because they're trying so hard to have everybody get along. So, what they're really trying to do is protect relationships and reduce conflict. My personal life, people I love, family members, guilty that I do this. Not that it's good, not that it's bad. And again, you may be thinking, well, I'm kind of this, I'm kind of the other one. Oftentimes they just mix together. But really think about which one do you connect with so far. If you are working with an amiable communicator, what can you do? Don't overlook their opinion. Like I just gave an example. Looks good, looks good. Sometimes I will email LOL, right? Don't just say looks good. You're really good at telling me this aspect or that aspect. That's why I'm emailing you. Take a little time and tell me what you think. I value your opinion. Don't assume they agree and don't push them too hard. If you want to be responsible, you want to create a safe environment for this person to share. And maybe then they will tell you their true feelings, right? Just keep inviting input, honestly and safely inviting their input on things. Okay, we have one last type of communicator. I have been this sometimes. I'm involved in a lot of volunteer things, advocacy, especially around recovery. Uh, Over the last 15 months, I've been involved in more type of advocacy and things I believe in. A lot of it has to do with communication, though, and trying to understand things. And I can be this type in my volunteer work, the expressive communicator. What does that mean? This is the big picture, big idea person who comes in. So, how do you know if you have an expressive communicator? They're energetic, they have big pictures, idea driven. I got a great idea, right? It's this wonderful idea. They are very creative, they can be very enthusiastic. The challenge is that these folks often can lack focus or follow through. It's like I have this great idea, squirrel brain, ADHD brain coming to light again, and now I'm going to have to hand it to somebody else because tomorrow I'm going to have another great idea about another big thing. That is the expressive communicator. So they might say things like, what if we tried something totally different, right? I got a vision for this. I'm thinking about that old movie, Jerry Maguire, where he went in and just kind of wanted to rip away from the normal way people did things. That would have been an expressive communicator, these big ideas. So they're creative, as I said. They got a lot of energy. They can be very personable and innovative. They come out with these ideas that are different and often really good. They can be misinterpreted as scattered, unrealistic, or distracted. Great, you got an idea. What else you got, right? And people can get frustrated sometimes. But what's really happening is they're trying to generate momentum. They're trying to think outside the box. They're trying to show different possibilities in ways. So, what can you do if you have this person that is an expressive communicator that you're working with? Don't shut them down. Listen to them. Don't ignore their ideas. And try not to force a rigid structure or timeline too early. Just sort out the ideas. Validate their ideas. You'll have time to guide and do some focusing later on. Let's narrow this down to what we can get done this week or by next week, maybe, right? And not agreeing right off the bat. Yeah, great idea. Let's do this. You're going to focus, you're going to see what's realistic, but listen to their ideas. Okay, that's the four different types. Now, you may want to go through and listen to this again. I'm also on the little thumbnail, I'm going to have the four types there, or you can just do some Googling and find out for yourself a little bit more about each four type. By next week, we're going to come back to these four types, a little bit more about how to interact. So, really want to encourage you, think about which one you most identify with, and if you have any of the other ones mixed in there. And then the people you work with. Who do you think you're working with? And next week, we'll go a little bit further about how to effectively work through meetings with these folks, work through projects with these folks, being responsible, using motivational interviewing techniques, and using 7 habits. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me hear from you. Love to hear from you. And please pass this along to some other people. Take care.